Hey, welcome back to the WWE Marathon. Today we are on episode 5 of Raw. It starts out a little bit weird. We have the old school Saturday Night's Main Event style promos to start the show off with Brutus, Barber, Beefcake, and Ted DiBiase hyping up their match. And Jimmy Hart is expressing some doubt about the match again. They're really planting the seeds for something with Jimmy Hart being so nervous and really kind of trying to talk DiBiase out of the match. It's weird. But then we get the regular open from the time. Randy Savage, when we see him, he's dressed to wrestle, which is weird because at the time he would usually have these outlandish suits and everything and weird military style jacket, but with all, zebra print or something to it. But no, he's wearing his wrestling tights and some custom bedazzled Monday Night Raw t-shirt. It's a weird look for him. But his mic doesn't work for the entire first match, which is, we've got the Steiner Brothers versus Ruth and Bobby Who. Ruth, again, is the guy who would go on to become Thrasher. Bobby Who wrestled a handful of matches as a jobber for WWE. No, not even a full-time jobber, just a guy who gets called in whenever they're in the area, I guess. But for the entirety of the match, no Randy Savage, except a couple times it sounds almost like he's on the phone when he's yelling at the people in the back to get him a mic that works. They never do. He ends up having to steal Rob Bartlett's mic, and Rob Bartlett is just silent for the rest of the show. But they don't figure that one out during this match until halfway through the next match. We go through a WrestleMania 9 plug. The matches are starting to come together. And then we get Yokozuna versus Ross Greenberg. Ross Greenberg is another jobber who, actually this one, he was a little bit more often used than Bobby Who, but still not much. Just every now and then they'd call him in a little bit more often, but he's not the level of like a Barry Horowitz. It's a total squash. There's a reason you haven't heard of Ross Greenberg. It was a real quick match. But they go to a match from the weekend, Yokozuna versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And they're going off of, the match plays off of Hacksaw's past as a football player because he does these shoulder tackles. They hype up that he's the first one to be able to take Yokozuna off his feet, which is a lie because Randy Savage did it at the Royal Rumble. But the story they're trying to sell, as though it didn't just happen a couple weeks prior, is that this is the first time it's ever happened, but Yokozuna still won and he still squashed Duggan. And they're really going heavy with the USA stuff, which is why they had Duggan in that role. But it's to hype a match against Bret Hart at WrestleMania. So Yokozuna's playing the anti-American heel to fight a Canadian. And it's just so weird that they would take that route with it, especially considering at the time there were no plans apparently for Hogan in the main event. So it kind of makes you wonder a little bit. We'll get into that in a couple weeks when we get to WrestleMania 9 though. Back to the show. There's a 16-man battle royal. No storyline reason. The winner doesn't get anything. Half the guys in there are low mid-carders. They're barely not jobbers. The people in the match, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Tatanka are probably your biggest names in there. Then you got Kim Chi, Terry Taylor, Tito Santana, Kamala, Bob Backlund, Owen Hart, Coco Beware, Berserker, Typhoon, Skinner, and Damian Demento. No introductions were made for the match. They didn't. They really only named wrestlers when they saw them getting thrown out. Half the time they didn't. It's just a mess. Then they get down to the final four, which is Razor, Santana, Michaels, and Tatanka. And they start to play up at that point that Tatanka was able to beat Shawn Michaels at I think it was a non-televised match, or it was on one of the weekend shows. But he was able to beat him in a non-title match. So they're kind of sort of using this battle royal to hype up the WrestleMania match between those two, but there's really beyond the commentary lightly mentioning that it really doesn't go anywhere. Santana and Tatanka together eliminate Michaels, and then Giant Gonzalez comes out and throws both the faces out. Razor Ramon sneaks under the bottom rope, so he's not eliminated. As soon as Giant Gonzalez leaves, he sneaks back in and claims the victory. So Razor Ramon wins the Battle Royal for nothing. Gets nothing out of it. It's just a Battle Royal. Giant Gonzalez got to beat up 2 people. So, yay. Then you've got Ted DiBiase versus Brutus Beefcake for the main event. Halfway through the match, IRS comes down to the ring with his briefcase and just blatantly smashes Beefcake with it. Blatant DQ. And this is when Jimmy Hart actually turns on Money Inc. He's trying to stop the assault. They keep beating up Brutus Beefcake after the match, and Jimmy Hart's the one trying to stop it. He tries to pull the briefcase away, and he's actually covering up Brutus Beefcake to shield him from further assault by Money Inc. It doesn't work. They get the briefcase and again smash him in the face with it. The mat is covered in blood as they leave the show. It was quite a sell. And the whole thing is to hype up that on episode 6, for the first time ever on Raw, Hulk Hogan will be there. Didn't say he was going to be wrestling, but he'll be there. So check that out tomorrow. We'll talk about what happened when Hulk Hogan came to Raw. Thank you for checking in. I hope you are keeping up with the WWE Marathon, watching along with me. You know what episode to watch. Thanks. Cheers.